We're being joined by Channels Television's data analyst, Mr. Babajide Ogunsowo. Thank you so much for coming on the news at 10.
Good evening, Melinda.
Now, with just a year to the general election, so many debates have been coming up. There's been fiscal federalism, resource control, and now the third for states to have more share of the pie. They want more revenue, and it has begun. Now, let's look at the timing, Babajide. Is that anything unusual about it, or is it normal?
It's quite unusual, and there's some part that is also a bit normal. But thinking about this, it reminds me of what had happened several decades ago, and that's when I was in school. Even though I'm good in maths, I've really never been good in chemistry. But here's what I know about having water at the same level, and it is that today we're in a situation where this is the state government and this is the federal government. And we keep pouring the water in between. So today, it's some water into the glass of the federal government. Tomorrow, it's some water into the glass of the state government. But whatever happens, and no matter how much we keep moving this around, the quantity of water will not increase. So here's what we need to do. We need to find a way of increasing the quantity of water rather than we keep focusing on the formula. Just yesterday, I was in the middle with two professors of history. One of them said, "Gidi, this problem started 7 decades ago." He referred to the 1946 Richards Constitution, that it all started when we had the regional assembly. That's when the focus was on sharing. The other professor cut in and said, no. He referred to the Littleton Constitution of 1954. He says that was when we had the premiers, and the premiers so much focused on revenue sharing as well. Now, after the discussion, we all agreed that all of that was an error. But again, as a wise man once said, an error only becomes a mistake if we refuse to correct it. And so did we correct it in 1960? No, we didn't. If you pick up the 1960 Constitution, Melinda, you'll find expenditure 15 times, only one mention of savings. That isn't also too different from the 1999 Constitution, where it's all about spending. Spend. 21 mentions of expenditure in the 1999 Constitution, only one mention of savings. Here's what it all means. In what the layman calls chop and quench, what we focused on is how do we keep spending money when the focus should be on how do we increase the money. So today there's some discussion about the states requesting for more share of the allocation. They want more than 27%.
They want more beyond salaries.
They want more because of what is perceived as the benefits that getting more will give them. So let's look at 3 myths.
Okay. 3
myths of them wanting more. The first myth is that if they get more money, it will improve welfare. But is that accurate? Now, we have evidence that that is only a myth, because the evidence shows us today that there are 4 types of states. In one quadrant of the mix is Lagos State, one of the states that's gotten high revenue from the federal allocation and has also been able to ensure that poverty is low. So 89 billion naira in federal allocation last year. High revenue, low poverty in the first quadrant. Now we have another state that has also gotten relatively a lot of money. Among several states, other states in that quadrant, Katsina State got approximately 46 billion naira in revenue last year. But again, high revenue and high poverty. Katsina State got more money than 27 states last year. But again, Katsina is among those 10 states that are classified as the most poor. So even though it had a lot of revenue, poverty is still high. Then we also have, within another quadrant, a state like Gombe that also argues that because it's gotten relatively low revenue, poverty is high.
So you're saying that it does affect the man on the street at the end of the day?
It does affect the man on the street, but the evidence shows that getting more money does not necessarily improve the poverty rates of states. Look at Osun State. Despite all the problems, Osun State currently has the lowest poverty rate in Nigeria, even though it got the least amount of money from federal allocation. So there's no direct correlation between getting more money and lowering poverty.
Babajide, now let's wrap this up. Is there any perfect or ideal formula that will make the federal, state, and local governments happy?
There's no perfect or ideal formula. But what is perfect is to focus less on the formula and focus more on the revenue. And if you don't remember anything else, Melinda, remember this. I would rather take 1% of 1 billion naira than take 100% of 1 million naira. Let's focus more on making more money than sharing all the money.
Okay, thank you so much. Channels Television's data analyst, Babajide Okunso.